Hello, today we're going to be looking at linear inequalities. Inequalities in maths are quite different to most other parts of maths because usually you're faced with an equal sign when you do anything in maths. And equals means something is equal to something, which means that you either get the question right or wrong because your answer is equal to it or it's not. 2 plus 2 equals 4. If you write down 2 plus 2 equals 5, you're wrong because it doesn't equal, it's not the same. An inequality is when things don't equal something. And there are 4 particular signs that you need to be aware of if you're going to be looking at inequalities. Now, the first sign is that sign, and that sign means less than. A number is less than, so I'm going to write on here 3 is less than 5. That's an inequality in itself. The way to remember it is that the smaller number is next to the smaller end of the little sign there. The bigger number is next to the big end of the sign where it's wide open. The opposite of the less than is greater than, more than, bigger than. And we could do it the other way around here. 5 is greater than 3. Again, we've put the large number near the large end of the sign. Now, you can also have this sign, which is less than or equal to. So it's exactly the same idea as the first one, but whereas 3 is definitely less than 5, we could actually have on here, we could have 5 is less than or equal to 5, because it is equal to it, and any number that's smaller than 5 could also be on that list there as being less than 5. And obviously the other way round, greater than or equal to, is the same idea. Now, when you have to deal with an inequality, there are certain things that you have to learn to do. First of all, you've got to look at number lines. At the simplest level, you'll be asked to show an inequality on a number line. Now, if they give you a question that says show this inequality, I'm going to write down n is greater than 2. So what we would do for that one, if it's greater than 2, is we would put a circle around 2, and we would put an arrow pointing upwards. N is that number that is bigger than 2, and it can carry on. Obviously, it can go off the end of your line, and it can go on to infinity. If we had the number that said n is less than 7, then we could put a circle at 7 and draw a line going the other way to show that the numbers are smaller. Now, if it says equal to, if we had n is greater than or equal to 4, then what we would do there is we would put a filled in circle at 4 and send our line off in that direction. So can you see the difference there? You've filled in the line if it's potentially equal. Think about like a switch. If it's equal to it, think about it kind of being turned on. It's switched on to 4. It could be 4. So it's turned on like a switch when it's on the on position. Over here, this one can't be 2, so it's switched off from 2. So that's like the open switch. If we had the opposite way around, n is less than or equal to 8, we would put our filled in circle at 8 and send the line back down that way. Now, in a question in an exam, you could be asked to draw this on a number line, like I've just done, or alternatively, you could be shown the number line and you could be asked to describe it by writing the n is greater than 2 or n is less than 7, etc. Okay, it's pretty self-explanatory. The only thing to remember is which ones have the circle that's not filled in and which ones have the circle that is filled in. Most of the questions in inequalities are going to involve solving inequalities. So that's what we're going to look at next. And here's a couple of questions. They look exactly like ordinary equations, and you treat them exactly like ordinary equations as well. Forget the inequality sign, forget about it being something that's not an equation, and treat it as though it is an equation. If this was an equation and it said 3x plus 4 equals 13, then what would you do? Well, of course, you would take away the 4 from this side, leaving you with just 3x. And you would, having taken the 4 from this side, you would take 4 from that side, leaving you with 9. And you would write an equals sign in the middle. But instead, we're going to write that in the middle. If it was equals, 3x equals 9, well then of course it would be x equals 3. So instead of that, x is less than or equal to 3. So this is an inequality where it's saying that this letter x, if you had 3 of them and then added 4 to your answer, your total would be less than or equal to 13. So it can be, so we work it down so that x is less than or equal to 3. X could be 1, x could be 0, x could be minus 5, x could be minus 1,000,000. As long as it isn't more than 3, if it's not 3.001, then you've got the answer right. You don't have to know what x actually is in an inequality. You just need to know what it's not, or where its limit becomes. In this inequality here, this is exactly the same as a standard equation once again. The only difference is that it's got an inequality sign in the middle instead of having an equals sign. And if we were doing it on this one, let's think what we would do. We would collect all the n's together on one side. Now, I'm going to break my own rule here, because if you've been watching any of the equations videos, I've always told you to switch them over if it's not a comfortable answer, if you end up with a negative over here. I'm not going to tell you to do that when it's an inequality, because we might start to confuse which way this sign should be pointing. So all I'm going to do then is I'm going to say we've got to take 4n away from this side, and therefore we need to take 4n away from this side. 2n take away 4n would be minus 2n. Minus 2n plus 3 is less than or equal to minus 3. So I've just removed that 4n. Then we need to remove this plus 3. So we're adding 3 to this side to send it up to 0. We're taking away 3 from this side to send it down to 0. We're taking away 3 from this side to take it down to minus 6. So minus 2n is less than or equal to minus 6. That means that minus n is less than or equal to minus 3. Which can then mean, of course, that we just tidy it up where n is less than or equal to 3. We're treating it exactly like an ordinary equation. Nothing complicated about it if you can do regular algebraic equations, and the only thing that changes is that instead of an equals sign, you continue with whatever sign they gave you at the beginning. And that's what basic linear inequalities are all about. They're called linear because all the numbers appear on a number line. You can also have questions on things called quadratic inequalities. There's a separate video for that and a separate book about it, because it's quite a lot more complicated and it involves quadratic factorising. So that's in a separate piece completely. It's much harder than this. I hope this has helped you. Again, treat it purely like an ordinary equation, but don't make the mistake of writing equals in the middle of it. Thanks for watching. I hope that's been useful, and we'll see you again soon on Maths is Not a Mystery. Goodbye.